Fantastic Four First Steps movie is coming out later this summer. We're very excited and anticipating it highly. And it dropped for us its very first teaser trailer. I thought the timing of the trailer was
odd.
Appropriate and odd. Appropriate in that, hey, we're far enough out that we should be starting to see some promotional material. Odd in that, historically, superhero movies have really leaned into that Super Bowl spot for their first trailers. And I won't be surprised if we see the Fantastic Four trailer during the Super Bowl for those of us watching sometime later this afternoon/evening. But the fact that they didn't hold it for a Super Bowl reveal was not what I would have expected.
Maybe they knew that most people don't want to watch this football game. So they're like, hey,
we got to get ahead of it.
We're going to just release it early. And then we'll play it again for the Super Bowl people. But they've been through enough this season, this football season.
Sure.
That's what I like to think.
Entirely possible. For those of you that have, or even if you haven't seen the trailer, by way of a quick recap, we got to see the primary characters of the film. In other words, the actual Fantastic Four. Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards, Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm, Joseph Quinn as Johnny Storm, and Ebon Moss-Bachrach as Ben Grimm. Now we saw the back of Galactus's head, but we know that our guy Ralph Ineson, we're not really going to see much of Ralph. It's a heavily CGI character. So the flesh and blood characters that we got to see were exactly who you'd expect. The only other little tease that got thrown in there was John Malkovich with long curly hair, which really, why has he been a shaved bald head guy his entire life? I saw that look, like, John, you've missed your calling, man. This is exactly what you should have looked like forever. But I digress. We still don't know officially who John Malkovich is playing in the film. But the quick rundown of the cast, notwithstanding, means what stood out to you from this first footage that we've been able to see?
But really, from this, it makes it feel like Invisible Woman's going to be the main character of the movie. I don't know if that is where you got that up from.
No, but tell me more, though. I like that.
It just, because it felt like it was her voice throughout the whole movie.
Right.
Or throughout the whole trailer.
Yep.
So it just seems like, maybe she's going to be like the linchpin for the entire family, which is probably accurate. Okay, I haven't read a lot of Fantastic Four, but that would not surprise me if that was legitimately the case there.
Yep.
So the Thing's voice, I am going to have to get used to. I just don't, that's not how I hear the Thing. I hear Michael Chiklis and something gruffier. And that just, that doesn't sound what this guy's voice is. So we'll see. I'm open-minded.
Yep.
Pedro Pascal is going to be great, I feel like. Johnny seems like he's going to be great. Galactus looks sick.
Mm-hmm.
I am super excited for a legitimate Galactus that is not a storm cloud.
I was going to say that's not just a swirling cloud of anger.
It will be interesting because, they're saying, Reed's figuring out the multiverse right now, blah, blah, blah. I'll be interested to see if Galactus is an eater of worlds or an eater of multiverses.
Yep.
Nope, just worlds. Yep. But you know what I mean.
I think they could just worlds.
They could change it to fit.
It's comics, maybe.
Yeah. No, and the bald guy, he looks great.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's going to do. He seems like he's going to be very integral to all of that. So I'm hoping we get honestly more of Galactus's associates. What's the word I'm looking for?
Yep, the heralds.
Yes, the heralds.
Yep, not a word we hear commonly these days.
I want more than just female Silver Surfer. Yep. Like, not Norrin Radd. I would love Norrin Radd, personally, over female Silver Surfer, but whatever. So I'm hoping we get more, like, I believe, Terrax is one of them?
Yep.
There's one that is, like, equivalent to the Human Torch. That's just a human ball of fire. So that would be kind of fun to watch him and Human Torch go back and forth.
Right.
Or she, I don't remember, to be quite honest with you.
Actually.
Oh, really? Look at that.
Yep.
Look at that. Yeah, that would be great. Instead of it just being them against Galactus, them against the Heralds, and then Galactus. I'm pumped. I think it'll be solid. I kind of want a little bit more because this is pretty vague, but again, it is a teaser trailer, so it's going to be vague. And I also really hope they don't spend too much time on the backstory because we all know what happens to Fantastic Four. I don't need to watch them get hit by space alien waves for a third time.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's my thoughts. I'm pumped. I think it'll be good. The Thing looks great, by the way.
He does.
You know?
Isn't that design incredible?
Right. So in the first the Michael Chiklis' Thing
Yep.
looked good, but it was very much more practical.
Yep.
You had
It was Michael Chiklis covered in rocks.
Yes, exactly.
Like, it was very much him as the bald, shaved-headed dude, and there's just a rock layer on top of it.
And it was respectable.
Mhm.
It was good. It
was not a
worked.
bad take.
No. And then the second one was definitely leaning more into the rockiness of the Thing.
Yep.
This one seems like it's very comic accurate of a look.
That rocky eyebrow, unibrow, is straight out of Jack Kirby's sketch.
Correct. And maybe it's just me, but he didn't look as jacked as I would think. But maybe that's also because he's wearing a shirt.
Yep.
So hopefully he does not wear a shirt for most of it. Because, that's where I'm at with that. So
no doubt.
I'm excited. I'm glad they're leaning into the futuristic side. It sounds like the Future Foundation probably won't be too far off from where they're at. Because did they say they had kids yet or not?
That has been left very open-ended. It has not been, and what I mean by that is it has neither been directly confirmed or directly denied. I'm leaning strongly towards they either do or by the end of this movie will have a child, if not both Franklin and Valeria, their son and daughter respectively. Because there is, obviously it was not in the teaser trailer, but one of the Disney showcases, I want to say it was when they were out in Brazil months ago.
Yeah.
Some of the screening or test footage that they showed was Reed teaching the class that in the comics within the last 15 or so years that Jonathan Hickman actually birthed this idea of Reed and Sue, but mostly Reed teaching a bunch of kids, essentially, and kind of raising them up as the next generation of intelligent and intellectual super beings.
Yeah, that could be cool.
Yep.
So I'm indifferent if they have kids right away off the bat. I mean, it definitely would be a different take because they'd be more established at this point, which I kind of like. Again, like just keep it. It makes them different. If that makes sense. Yeah. So that's where I'm at with it. We'll see what this does in the grand scheme of things. If this is the 4 that they keep for the MCU moving forward too, because apparently this is a different world, correct?
Oh, there's no doubt. Yeah, this is certainly not the 616 universe. I mean, just some of the landscape shots that you have of the Baxter Building in New York. There's the Chrysler Building, which we all know what that looks like, but then you have 2 or 3 just entirely not of this world skyscrapers that are there. And so it's obvious that they're setting it into a alternate universe.
It's nice. It's a fresh start.
It gives them a fresh start. Yep. And like you said, they're not going to mess around with the origin. Like, there's going to be callbacks to it. We got that already in this teaser trailer, but as far as spending a half hour, let's say, unwrapping we're meeting them before and now here they are during and after. We're not going to be spending a lot of time with that, which very similar to what we have experienced the last decade almost now with the Spider-Man Peter Parker character. It's like everyone that's going to go see that movie is familiar enough with the origins that you don't need to retread that ground. And so I'm glad that instead we get to spend that time elsewhere. I like your point about Sue being the focal point of the story. She certainly is in the comics the most stable out of the group. Right. I mean, Ben, for obvious reasons, has anger issues, and again, reasonable, understandable. He sticks out just a wee bit, and he's built to hit things, and so you can't do that as a passive person. You got to have a little edge to you. Johnny is volatile in more ways than one, and Reed, bless him, just isn't very reliable. Reed is a genius creative, and so he is often going off and isolating himself, not intentionally trying to avoid his family, but he gets so caught up and hyper-focused on the latest curiosity that it really comes back to Sue to be the stable one of the group so that the rest of them have a place to come back to and a person to come back to. And I said this from the beginning. I think Vanessa Kirby is a phenomenal casting choice.
Yeah, I would agree.
And I mean, this very brief trailer just affirmed the heck out of that for me because it's so easy to see her as Sue Storm. Like, there are plenty of people that could play a capable Reed Richards, and I think Pedro is going to do just fine. I'll get over the old thing. But he'll be great as Reed Richards. I think Joseph Quinn is going to do a great job as the Human Torch. He in Gladiator 2, it's the only other film I've seen him in, was really stinking good. So I'm like, all right, this guy, Johnny Storm, sure, I can see that. Our guy, Ebon Moss, I've seen him in a couple things, not in a big dose. I'm not bothered by the voice. I totally understand why others have been so far. I will say it's a bit of a unique choice that they haven't dressed up his voice at all. Like, it's truly just him. They haven't taken his voice and mixed it in any way to add, again, pun intended, any gravel to it. It's just straight up him. I think we'll get used to it as the movie goes on. I think it'll become less distracting as it's normal. But initially, I totally understand the level of distraction that it presents. The element of the Fantastic Four that I'm looking forward to is I do hope they bring kids into the element, not for the sake of it, like being a kid-driven, like Skeleton Crew type show,
right?
But because it brings so much more out of the Reed Richards character than is there otherwise. Like, it's very hard for Reed to not be another Tony Stark, or as we've seen him in the MCU, Stephen Strange. And so it humanizes Reed and grounds him in a very real way, where he can't go out and isolate and go off Earth or off the universe with such regularity, or just, hey, I was just curious. He's got this kind of hitch in his gait, if you will, of, oh, wait, I've got to be a dad. And I think that actually enhances his character quite a bit. And you have Johnny and Ben as the fun uncles. And who doesn't want those two guys in your corner as the Funkles? So everything from the design element of how this alternative world looks is tremendous. I appreciate the thoughtfulness that's clearly been put into it. There's obviously a very sincere level of care that's gone into the design and creation of this alternate world. My suspicion when it comes to John Malkovich's character, I wonder if he's not going to be Nathaniel Richards. So this is the father of Reed Richards.
That's what somebody suggested. I also saw he's like a Russian scientist as well, possibly.
Yep.
The red something.
Yeah, and it's always the red with the Russians, isn't it?
Too on the nose.
Yeah, a little too on point. I could easily be wrong, of course. But Nathaniel's character in the comics is a multiversal, traversing character. And so it just seems too likely that he won't be part of the reason why this version of the Fantastic Four gets brought out of their universe and shoved eventually into the 616.
Right.
So, no, I was really encouraged overall. I thought it was telling that they showed every character's power set except for Reed. Like, we got to see Sue be invisible a little bit. We got to see Johnny flame on. We got to see, Ben Grimm be big and rocky and run a little bit. But we didn't see Reed do any stretchy work. Like, interesting.
Yeah, that is weird.
Yeah, we saw him drawing on a chalkboard, which is fine, but none of the stretchiness for our.
Yeah, I don't know why they're saving it.
I don't know either. I don't know what to really draw
Seems
from
like
it.
a weird thing to save.
Oh, I know, that was my thought as well. But what I'm hopeful for, big picture, okay, for this movie and because I think they've really crushed it from the casting point of view. And like you said with Galactus, he looked terrific. The little bit we got to see looked fantastic. Comic just ripped it right out of the comics. Perfect. I would really like to see this be a group that the MCU just revolves around in the coming years.
Yep.
Because the characters in and of themselves and the actors and actress that they've put in these characters to embody these characters, I think are going to be about as strong as it gets. And so lean into them. Let's see a lot of them. And they really do well. Like, they're a very natural, hey, we're partnering up with others. It's very rare that the Fantastic Four is just in their own realm. They're almost always teaming up with other individuals or groups. So there's such great opportunity.
Well, I think Spider-Man's a prime example
There's
of
no
that,
doubt.
right?
Yep.
I would love to see Tom Holland with Johnny Storm. I would love to see that. I would love to see him with Reed because I think their brains would like to bounce off each other.
No question.
And yeah, that group and Spider-Man are so important to each other alone. Yep. Like, I mean, he's the first person after everybody forgot who he was that he came back to and was like, "Hey, I'm Peter Parker," and like they're like all like, "We knew it." So,
yep.
Spider-Man's very important. You know, it would be really cool to see Wolverine in there too if they ever did that storyline where it's those two, Hulk and Ghost Rider, is the new Fantastic Four, which is just more funny than anything.
Right.
But yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. They are a pillar. They're one of the 4 main pillars in Marvel, and it's good to see them actually have something here. So, yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. A real quick side note. So you mentioned Terex as one of the Heralds of Galactus. Nova is the fire-based Herald of Galactus.
Not a Nova Corps.
Mind you, here's where it gets a little confusing, though. There's also Fire Lord. So Nova and Fire Lord. So there at times there are multiple fire-based Heralds of Galactus.
Interesting. Okay.
So,
cool.
Does it make sense? It's comics. It's comics. So we didn't get any, that's one last note here. We did not get any tease of the version of Silver Surfer that we're seeing in this movie. So that is still to come. But again, when it's a teaser, you don't want too much to be revealed. And frankly, even when you get into the quote unquote main or primary trailer, you don't want too much to be given away. So good start, encouraging, fun to see the first trailer for First Steps. And I need to remind myself here of our release date, July 25th. 2025. So just a couple weeks after Superman comes out on July 11th. So great to see some hype building up for a couple what should be very, very fun flicks.